What's up, everyone? It is January 8th, 2020, and this is my first vlog of the new year. And for this particular one, I want to talk a little bit about what is going on in the feud between America and Iran right now. There was a press conference today, and President Trump talked about everything that's been going down. To catch you guys up to speed, basically, this started back when I think things really started to escalate when there were some protesters that Iran basically sent, or at the very least, instigated to go and attack a U.S. embassy in Iraq. And this was on TV, and it was uh, very clearly a an act of, I don't know, it was an act of aggression against a U.S. Piece of territory. So it was not just something that was light. Um, and so Trump then a few days later retaliated by basically taking out their number two dude in the country of Iran, this guy named Soleimani, who, according to many metrics and also different organizations, have they have labeled him as a terrorist. So right now, that is one thing that's kind of in dispute: is was he a terrorist or was he a government official? And so people are like saying, did Trump have a right to do this to him? And is it a war crime? Different things like that. Um, and then you've got the people that are for it that are saying essentially like, dude, you guys messed with a U.S. embassy that's a piece of America, essentially, and you did it, and this is the retaliation. And he went hard at you to say, don't mess with us. And so there's people that support it, there's people that don't. But what we do know is that it happened, and the Iranians were basically vowing to take revenge, and they did so in the form of today they attacked some Iraqi bases that supposedly hosted U.S. troops. Those bases were hit. Now, according to Trump and according to all sources of media that I've seen, there were zero U.S. casualties. And according to Trump, further, there was minimal damage done to these facilities. Um, so the question then becomes, what will Trump do in response to that? And this is, I think, kind of what this press conference was about. Trump had a press conference, and in it, he basically laid out again the reasons why he conducted the attack in the first place. And he made a pretty strong argument for the character of who Soleimani was and why he deserved to die and why he needed to die. Um, Now, I want to say real quick, if you are not a fan of Trump, it still is not untrue what Trump has said about this Soleimani guy. The Soleimani guy has done a lot of terrible things, and they were terror related things involving innocent uh, civilians, involving some Americans, involving just other countries. The Soleimani guy was behind a lot of stuff. So you can take that for what it's worth, but if you're just mad at Trump because he killed him, you should probably know what the guy did that Trump killed. Um, and there are people that they get mad that Trump says offensive things and that he says inappropriate statements regarding women, and all of these things that people get up in arms about. That while there is a place for talking about the lack of character of our president, he doesn't hold a candle to the stuff that this guy has done. These are factual things that this guy has done. The reason why I basically know pretty certainly that they are factual things is after the press conference was done, I conducted a fact check search on the press conference. And the only things that was coming up, I saw one by CNN in which they were getting after Trump for exaggerating the Obama Iranian deal and how much money the U.S. gave Iran and how much money was given to them in total. So that's their that's a completely side note from the main point of what this press conference was about. And so it's important to understand that the media, from what I saw, was already trying to focus it on a few fringe things that had some errors in them in order to draw away from the main point of what this was about. The right now, also in the media, they are very much like trying to not paint this Soleimani in a terrorist type of a frame. And okay, that's I don't see how you can really do that. You can argue that maybe Trump acted without your permission, Congress. Maybe Democrats in Congress, you have a problem with that, and you can maybe make an argument for that. But you can't really argue that this guy wasn't a bad guy. There's not really a way around that. Anyways, they seem to want to do that. But what Trump was doing with this press conference was he was essentially saying, we're fine. Nothing happened to us. And he's aware of the magnitude of what he did to them. And if this is what they're coming back with, what it looks like to me is a passive aggressive way of Iran being able to save face. They know that America is much stronger than them. And they did something petty in the grand scheme of fighting where they basically vandalized one of our buildings. And in response, we took out their number two dude in their country. And then they come back and they shoot some missiles at some buildings that are in Iraq that supposedly hold some of our people, but none of our people die. I don't necessarily think that was coincidence that they didn't die. I think that it's Iran's passive aggressive way of basically trying to save face. And this could be the end of everything as far as the escalation. Because Trump, from this conference, he did not sound like he was wanting to do anything else to them, other than he even made a way saying like, we want to see Iran take advantage of the potential that they have to become a great country and actually play well with others. That's what he was basically saying throughout the conference. He was talking about Iran needs to stop the behavior that they've engaged in for years and years and years. And any of you guys that are older than, I would say, probably 30 years, you guys we have all heard the name Iran in regards to stuff going on. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. We've all heard the name of Iran in regards to stuff that's going on that's not good for our entire lives. So Trump saying this, he's saying NATO and all of the civilized countries in the world, let's actually get together and we need to say, as a unified group, Iran, it's time to start playing nice with everyone. And right now, it's like America is. You can look at it that America is, taking the matters into their own hands and they're going against the wishes of other people, blah blah blah. But I can also say for a certain fact that Iran has not just messed with America, and there are plenty of countries that are happy and would be happy to have Iran chill the F out. So this is not a statement. This is not all bad, that what Trump is doing. If you look at it through that lens, that at some point somebody needed to stop being politically correct and maybe go to Iran and say, you guys need to tone it down. And he's doing that in a very bold way. So anyways, it's where it stands right now. Trump is saying, hey, you know what? We're good here. Iran, stop supporting terrorists, stop trying to go nuclear, and start actually playing nice with everyone. The way that you guys have acted, There's no way, as long as I'm president, I'm letting you guys anywhere near a nuclear missile. That's basically what he's saying. Now, if it were somebody else in office saying this that were more palatable in this particular instance in dealing with Iran, I think that this is not a completely unheard of conclusion that we would want to come to, where Iran starts to like play nice. So wherever you fall on the spectrum, I think that this is going to be a good thing. Now, we can look at the ramifications of what it means for Trump to do something that drastic after, um, well, like the talk is the disproportionate amount of retaliation. So, kind of like Iran came up and they were like a girl that scratched Trump across the face. And Trump straight up punched her back right in the eye, gave her a like solid black eye, and knocked her butt onto the ground. And so, in order to save face, she gets up and she throws something at him. And then she doesn't do anything else. And if Trump were a true maniac, he could have kept punching. He could punch again right now if he wanted to, but it doesn't sound like he wants to. We know that we're stronger than them. Anybody with a brain knows that we are stronger than Iran is. So we need to understand that there is a lot of posturing going on, but there's also you cannot put anything past Trump as far as that he has established that he is unpredictable. He is not to be effed with. And understand he's also doing this for our entire country. So even if you hate him, he's doing something that is probably good. This is anecdotal and it's a side note, but I've got a good friend. He's a devout Muslim, and I asked him about it. He's not from Iran, but I asked him what he thought about it. He's like, dude, can't stand what they're doing. Like President Trump is right, and so obviously that's one dude, and I'm not speaking for all Muslims. But I mean, I do think it's important that we be careful about how we address this stuff. When we're talking with people, from different faiths of our own, like as a Christian, I'm a Christian, and if I don't know, there are things that I can relate to Muslims on. That Christians, if we're honest, like we've got the Old Testament, we share some lineage with them and some history with them. Back to Abraham, that's where it splits off. Abraham had Isaac and Abraham had Ishmael. At the point of Ishmael, that's where it goes to the roots of the Islam religion, whereas the Judaism goes through Isaac and then Jacob. Now, after that, and then of course Jesus comes through the line of King David, who was of Judaism. So they have a similar understanding of Old Testament views as what we see in the Old Testament. I've read through some of the Quran, and there are, similar to the Bible, there are people that are Muslims that interpret it in different ways than others. So, with that being said, not every one of them is like the Muslims that are supporting Soleimani, or that are running the government of Iran, or that are in ISIS. They're not all like that. And I think a lot of them that aren't like that would love for people to understand that they are, and I think that they are trying to show that. The guy that I work with, he's an awesome dude. He's a nice, like, loving individual, and I see that in him, and it does. And so I guess what I've learned from that experience, and not just him, through others that I've interacted with, through working with or had them as patients, wonderful people. We need to understand that while we don't agree on things religiously, and we see how they manifest for those who are extreme of that religion, Um, there are many that don't agree with that. Just like we as Christians wouldn't agree if there were still people in claiming to be a Christian church or even a Jewish church that was going around and using Old Testament style tactics where it's like, well, the Lord told us that we are to wipe out this entire tribe of people or nation of people or kingdom and slaughter everyone. Like we understand that that's not where we are supposed to be in regards to what the Bible wants us to do at this point in time. So I just want to, I guess my what I've been thinking about a lot, what I've been kicking around is that there are a lot of issues going on in our country that are extremely excuse me again, two-sided, where we are getting one picture from particular outlets that you watch that will tell you one side of that story, and you are getting another side of that picture if you listen to other outlets. And okay, so Fox is one side, MSNBC would be the other. There's not really a disputing of this, and look it up for yourselves. Both of them would probably, they both admit to their points of view, especially Fox. Fox admits that they're conservative. I've heard that MSNBC admits that they are of the left. Um, but even if they don't admit it, it's very clear that they are. So those two organizations will give you a completely different picture surrounding the same issue. The issue, Fox, the issue, MSNBC. That's the nature of it. And it's important to understand that it's not just one or the other, because when we start looking at it as one or the other, that's why there's a divide, and that's why half of the country thinks that the other half is evil, or they're incorrect, or they're believing lies. You need to listen to both sides of it, and understand that there are valid points of view from both sides, and these are not easy things to answer. Do I want Trump to go to war with Iran? No, I don't. But do I think Iran has been out of control for a long time? Yeah, I think so. And this is not really something that's, from what I can tell, is really in dispute. There's just a lot of political correctness going on, which doesn't seem to make sense um, regarding a country like Iran. But I think that comes down to the overall, as far as the media goes, they just don't like Trump. So whatever he's going to do, they're going to make it look like it was an unwise decision. Um, now you can come back and you can say, no, they're just holding him accountable. All right, maybe that's the case. But if we don't know all of the facts, we don't know everything, we cannot assume certain things to be true. And this is one of those cases. We don't know if he's going to go to war. All that we can do is we can look at it with an objective eye to know what all of the facts are. And that would be to give ourselves peace of mind. What I think that the media kind of likes to do is they like to stoke it up a little bit. They like to make you think that it might happen and really talk. They don't want to quite make a statement where, nah, he's not going to war, because they want to keep tensions high. And I think that that's because they don't like Trump. But that's my opinion. So, I might be full of it. All of this could change tomorrow. Tomorrow, Iran could attempt to, retaliate again. And Trump might punch back again. Those things are for real. But I guess the biggest thing is, hey, people in our country, we have differing points of view. But I've found that understanding that they're not all evil, they're not all stupid for believing the other thing. That goes both ways. So a conversation where you're trying to learn from the other point of view because you can gain more truth for your own point of view, and letting them talk and hearing what they say and evaluating it and weighing it, there's value to it. Um, the next one that I was thinking about doing vlog wise is one I want to call It's Not So Simple. And it's talking about some of the issues like this, where there's definitely two sides. I'll give you a brief example. That Pope slap thing that happened like a week ago. Depending on which media outlet you watched, there's this clip of where the Pope's walking along this line of people and he's like shaking hands and stuff. And this lady grabs hold of his arm. And so if you watch certain outlets, what you see is they're like, the Pope slapped a woman in the audience uh, today, blah blah blah, and they show the clip of just her arm already on him, and him already reaching towards her, and then he slaps her wrist to get her hand off of him. I watched, and it was surprising because it was local, but it was still Fox. It was a local Fox news station. They showed just that clip. He's here, he's leaning this way, and then he slaps her wrist. Made it look like the Pope did this just egregious act of just slapping some lady randomly. If you watch the whole clip, what happened was he's walking along, minding his own business. She grabs his arm. He's still walking, and she wrenches on his arm, and then he gets pulled back. He goes back in response to her pulling on it. Now, and then he slaps her arm. Now, you might not still think that, okay, so what's the big deal? Why did he have to slap her? I can say, as somebody that works with elderly patients, as a physical therapist, assistant, that old people, they've got arthritis, they've got a lot of soreness in their joints, especially their shoulders. And if you watch his action and his reaction from it, you get the indication that she wrenched on his arm and it probably hurt him pretty bad. He's got an old joint and she might have just really wrenched on it and pulled on it to where he's going to have some soreness. So he was going back and almost out of like, that hurts. Like he's saying, get your hand off of me. That's an example of It's Not So Simple. That's an example of people jumping to conclusions, showing a clip where, ooh, the Pope slapped her. Watch the whole clip and find out what actually happened and why he did it. Yes, the truth is complex in that regard, but there is truth. If you look at one angle of it and one piece of it, it can look vastly different from looking at the whole piece of the truth. So that's what's going on with a lot of spin in the media. Anyways, I've got a few more examples of that I want to talk about. The one, and I haven't gotten around to it for a while, but the Christianity Today article that the editor of Christianity Today wrote about Trump. I've got some stuff I want to say about that, and I'll probably talk about that a little bit in that next vlog. So, but for now, I wanted to talk about this because it's kind of relevant. It's going on right now. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you tune in next time. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, and love you guys. God bless. Until next time. I'll see you then.